Welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Friday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. It is a very big Friday indeed, actually, because it is a triple witching, meaning that stock options, futures, and of course, index options are also going to be expiring all on the same time later today at the end of U.S. market close, about a little bit of time after that. So that is typically a time when we see big money managers start to rebalance their portfolios. And then, of course, we have the quarterly closure coming in, well, in just like, I guess like 12 or so days. Let me just see. Yeah, according to my calendar, about 13 days from today. And that's also another big time for big money managers to really be rebalancing and reallocating their portfolios. So we do expect big movements alongside that. Obviously, that plays into the more long-term analysis that I've been putting out in this video for the past few weeks here, of which we probably won't go too much into detail on that today. I want to keep today focused on the short-term timeframes, more or less because I have a little bit of a shorter time span myself, seeing as I couldn't do a live stream this morning as I have a doctor's appointment in a little bit of time here, so I need to fit everything in. And I suppose that would be a good time for me to move on from this topic and move on to the content of the day. I suppose, actually, before we get into that, I should let you know that we do have our 4-year anniversary sale going on right now. Insane that it's even made it this far, especially considering that this place was like, it was never intended to ever be anything what it is right now, or really, it just happened out of boredom, realistically, as, I didn't really have anyone else to talk about this sort of stuff with once I started to go on my own independent route. So major thank you for being a part of this, and we'll maybe swing back at the end of this video if it is relevant to kind of discuss, these programs and whatnot. What I can say right now is, hey, just make sure that you watch the promotional videos so that you can decide, is this a good fit for me or not? Because, well, obviously you'd probably want to know that. Okay, let's get into the analysis of the day, I suppose, and let's start it off over here on the short-term time frame. So yesterday and the day prior, we hit our targets to the upside, about 41,500 or so, based off of the short-term time frame breakout, which was just above 39.5. Now, in the last 24 hours, we did say, yesterday's video, we did say likely a pullback in the short term. Pullbacks can come down as low as anywhere around $40,000, of which I believe we've gotten that right here. Yep, 40,200 in the early morning hours, right before I woke up, it looks like. And I would be saying essentially the same thing as today, in the sense that, hey, Bitcoin going sideways above this region is more or less good for the Bulas, but I'd actually move up this point of failure now, not to 39,600 as the sort of invalidation of a potential setup right here into a higher low, but I'd actually move this up to as low as basically 39,900 on a 4-hour closure. That is to say that as long as Bitcoin is above there, I do treat any sort of a pullback, and another test down around there as just, still another higher low, but we do expect that if Bitcoin is going to complete the reversal, this would be where your higher low essentially comes from. So that also does imply that if Bitcoin does start to close specifically below 39,900 on a 4-hour time frame, I would be looking for this to, well, essentially fail and very likely come back down, not just to $39,000, but more or less likely to low $38,000 region, which obviously has greater implications for the higher term timeframes, as that would very likely open up the doorways for a major move to the downside. Now, keep in mind that in the last 24 hours, very little has changed for even the medium or especially the higher term timeframes. Bitcoin still is operating on lower highs right here. So despite all of the excitement, and yes, I can think of many reasons that some preliminary excitement could be had. It's this is still a downtrend, obviously. So until Bitcoin does reverse that trend, it's as always going to be a little bit too premature for myself to be calling a major breakout in this case, obviously. But before we get into that, let's go check out our indicators over here, and we do see pretty much exactly what we said yesterday. I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but so that the people who've been following up on this content, especially during these more boring times, can see how these things operate, on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, it's not that it like takes an amazing amount of education or anything like that. It just takes patience, really. I figure that most people can, look at this and follow up on this analysis and basically get it rather quickly. Or at least that's what it seems like to me, kind of perusing a lot of the comments here, which is really fucking cool, actually. But basically, what were we sort of predicating that upon? Well, hey, the 4-hour BBWP was going back into another contraction phase, going back below the moving average right there, and coming off of that, short splurt to the upside. So whenever I look at that, it's like, look, all right, we're probably going to go into a contraction phase within the context of our current trend. That likely means a pullback. And then what we're looking for here, or what you're likely looking for if you're looking for the reversal, because, typically people come at this from the perspective as a boolah, right, is they want to see the full hour BBWP come back down into the, low teens or especially single digit percentiles, and then a higher low along that. If you see something like that, that is actually typically what you do expect before a reversal is confirmed on that time frame. In this case, that probably does, expand it to some of the other medium-term timeframes. Anyways, as far as momentum oscillators go, we do see that on full hour RSI. It's not really much to be spoken about right here, actually. Maybe if we go down to like an hourly or a 2 hour, there might be some sort of divergences to be aware of, but for right now, not on the 4 hour. Yeah, the bi-hourly had a little bit of hidden bullish divergence right there, but again, that will be nullified below about $40,000. 3 hour, do we see anything of particular interest right here? No, I wouldn't have it as well. So not really getting anything that is a really, obvious signal for what it's worth right now. 6 hour, of course, not going to have it if the 4 hour doesn't have it. So let's go over into our stochastic momentum and see what these timeframes are looking like. 6 hour stochastic momentum is actually pointed down right now and will be downside angled as long as Bitcoin's below 41,200. So this is a corrective signal right here, to be fair. So that is, not like a damning thing. But of course, Bitcoin starts to come back down below $40,000. That's where I really start to expect this to be like your next lower high before reaching much lower. Until then, I do think that hopium remains with the boolahs, and the probabilities are actually on the boolah sides for a bit of a reversal. Anyways, going to the 4 hour time frame right here, we do see 4 hour stochastic momentum is going to be downside angled as long as Bitcoin's closing above, not above, but below 40,800. Again, a bit more of a corrective signal right there as we did look at the BBWP. So we expect, maybe a little bit more sideways into around the end of the trading day for US markets, I would expect. And at that point, I'd be looking for Bitcoin to very likely break the short-term time frame range, which we'll go over in a second. But I do want to measure that up against the 3 hour and the hourly in this case, of which we see on the 3 hour. We see a loading screen. Will turn back up above about 40,750. Kind of Bitcoin's below there by about $100 right now, so not anything too interesting. And hourly is upside angled above about 40,500, and again coming off of extreme lows actually. So what is essentially aligned with? Probably sideways again, at least until US markets open at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Personally speaking, I don't think that we're going to see a break of this range until probably around end of US day. So that is going to be again below about 39,900. Be getting targets back down to at least $39,000, but probably lower than that. Probably back down towards low 38 in this case. And then of course to the upside, what would constitute a nice short-term time frame range breakout? Well, in this case, I would say that that criteria would be met with a an hourly closure either above $42,000 would do it for me, or a 4 hour closure above about these wick highs right here, about 41.5 or so. If one of those two criteria is met, obviously stochastic momentum over here would turn back onto the upside. So you have not just a range breakout, but momentum also turning that direction. And then I'd imagine that volatility is probably going to be an expansive posturing, if and when that were to happen, because right now we're already getting down, quite literally to extremes. So very likely looking for a resolution on this around end of day today. I think at latest Monday, as typically over the weekend I don't try to pay too much attention to short-term price action. So right now we are 8 minutes into this video. Should we go over anything else? Pretty cut and dry today. Oh, should probably talk about upside targets if Bitcoin actually does, break out in this case. You'd have a very obvious one back around about 43,500 would be the low side estimate of that, and $44,500 would be kind of the general range highs in this case, most relevant for a daily actually. As we can go back to this chart right here, and I guess we'll just briefly go over the higher term timeframes for a second. Don't want to make this too much longer than it needs to be, but ultimately on the daily, the $44,500 level still very, 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 very relevant for essentially confirming I would even consider this a macro breakout to the upside. It would not just confirm that, but it would also confirm a technical formation. That would be your ascending triangle right here, assuming that criteria is met. Again, very, very much contingent upon that. And that does have a technical target all the way up to about $56,000. Also in line with the 3.272 Fibonacci extension, and, would also confirm a couple of other majorly important things along the way. One of them being, a weekly higher low, which we haven't seen in quite some time, but that would be, quite important. And then of course, it would also naturally confirm another drive of hidden bullish divergence and a rejection of the bearish control zone right here. Should we go over the 5-day signal as well? I don't necessarily want to because I've done it so many times, but maybe we just briefly go over that because that does have natural confluence with what we're talking about right here. And then we'll talk about the downside as well. But in this case, yeah, the 5-day signal is something that I've been keeping a keen eye on and a very big focus on this channel, of which the 5-day BBWP has, whoopsies, I dropped my little thinking tool right there. My bad. Anyways, 5-day BBWP over the past year, getting down to this, teenish level, if you will, has produced some pretty, some pretty or I wouldn't say normal, but pretty, similar responses for price action meeting this, these regions right here. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 times in the past year or so, and we're working on number 5th right here. And actually, this 5th time is even, I would say, is among the lowest of what we have seen. So that does naturally imply that the resolution of this is going to be even greater. Anyways, in the past year, for these 4 prior iterations, we have seen on average about a 40 to 45%, or more like a 45% gain or loss from that point. So you can measure it up with these areas right here. Obviously, I've already done it for you. These green vertical bars correlate with those low volatility regions. And of course, the first one was to the downside, about 48% right there. Next one to the upside, about 42.29. This one over here, about 46.75 to the upside. And this more recent one in December, 42.17% to the downside. And then they all actually have occurred in relatively similar amounts of days. As you can see, the 2 upside signals were met within about 35 days from that signal given to next major high. And the 2 downside signals were about 45 and 50 days, respectively, to reach those final targets, actually. So ultimately, I do put quite a fair bit of weight on that, for 1, kind of timing things, and 2, kind of estimating what the response is going to be like. And for what it's worth, if you were to take the upside resolution of this, of course, understanding that volatility is direction neutral, then, putting 45% onto price action kind of from where we're at right now, where does that put Bitcoin? At about $55 to $56,000, very much in line with that technical target, not just from the potential ascending triangle, but also that 2 drives of hidden bullish evidence call that we'd naturally confirm along the way if that condition is met as well. Again, this is all contingent upon getting back to about $44,500. I do think that I do think that based off of this signal right here, the probabilities are a bit more in the Bulaw's favors right now, simply because we did see, simply because we did see in the past year all of those low BBWP signals combined with a momentum oscillator like the stochastic right here have produced. I mean, they've actually all been correct in this case. Doesn't mean it's always going to be like that, but high probability for the past year. So until it stops working, well, not really any reason to fuck around with that, in my opinion. But in this case, the first one to the downside, obviously losing the bullish control zone. Second one to the upside, obviously losing the bearish control zone by contrast. Third one, again, to the upside and remaining within the bullish control zone, also to crossing about the exact same time. Fourth one, the December, meltdown, downside and losing the bullish control zone. And more recently, upon our last closure, we did see that 5-day stochastic momentum remains to the upside and, working its way out of the bearish control zone for the first time since, December. Also, it should be known that the 5-day stochastic momentum will be remaining with upside posturing as long as Bitcoin's above $37,000. Now, I would not, to reference a conversation that we were having in the Discord earlier today, wait for $37,000 to be hit before I reverse my opinion on that signal, on that potential signal. No, of course, fucking not. That's ridiculous. I think that decisions could be made much priorly before that. Just personally speaking, I would go as far as saying that, hey, even if Bitcoin comes back down below, and closes a 12-hour below 39,900 or even 40,000 bucks for that matter, probably going to be a good indication that this is your next low ride, probably going to come back down to the low $38,000 region again. It's going to be bounced along the way, obviously, but bear in mind that in the more short-term look on this, we do have lower highs and same lows, and that is a distributed pattern in a greater potential accumulation pattern, which is a little bit less tested, to be fair, and that would have a natural downside target, the downside target based off of this is actually it's actually not necessarily based off of this as a formation right here. What it's based off of is the historical the historical signal over here with the monthly MACD and the monthly 20 simple, of which when combined have produced, you know, historically the same goddamn signal every fucking time, right? In this case, we've only seen 1, 2, 3 times in the past where the monthly MACD has crossed the downside. And when that signal is combined with the white 20 simple, losing it specifically on the monthly, you know, each and every time, that has been the acceleration move down to the green 55 exponential moving average right here. So this goes back to 2014, 2018, and 2019 and 2020 as well. And as of current times, well, if Bitcoin were to initiate that downside, confirm those factors, that would have a natural target somewhere down around about, you know, 23, 24,000 bucks. Guess where 45% ish move to the downside would naturally line up with if we shaved it off from right here. About 23,000 bucks right here. So, you know, you can see that a big move is very much brewing. We have the, we have the fundamental sort of narrative for that as well, with the triple witching kind of, playing into that. Obviously, end of quarter going on here too. And so, you know, it's basically just a long way of saying the same thing that I've been saying for a while now. Hey, if you're bullish and you want the more, you know, obvious confirmation above $44,500 on a daily closure, good. You know, probably going to see that move transpire in the following weeks. To the downside, even below $40,000, I'd say is rather concerning in the short term. But if you want to go by the book, you'd probably be using about about 38,000 bucks in this case, for kind of declaring a downside breakdown. Anyways, in the short term time frames, kind of, you know, more or less same thing as what we've been saying. Well, less rangy, a bit more sideways until U.S. markets open. Do we have another swipe to the downside, maybe around those $40,300 lows? Probably yes, but probably be looking for another short-term bounce off of that as well. Wouldn't call an upside resolution here as long as Bitcoin's below about 41.5. And for the downside, I think we said this enough time, but it's basically 39.9 or 40,000 bucks on a more medium-term time frame. Anyways, I think we have just enough time to kind of swing back on over here. I forgot to go over this as well with the open interest, but the open interest actually hasn't been too interesting, to use a bad pun right there. If anything, it does kind of suggest that we are seeing a bit of a change of behavior right here. As well as the funny rates, which are actually negative right now, negative 0.01% in the hourly feeds. Very interesting. By the way, I think that you can actually get the premium features on the app right now for free for like a little bit of a trial while we do have the 4-year anniversary sale going on. Anyways, to explain that, I should let you know that for all of the programs here, they all come with promotional videos. They're going to explain who they're for, who they're not for. Then it's up to you to make the decision for yourself, obviously. I just want to always highlight these two programs, specifically the TA program and the options program, as programs that, you know, don't only require like a pretty big financial commitment, but also a big time commitment. And so for the people who are considering getting into these, I just want to say my piece in the sense that, hey, if you don't have a lot of free time, you're probably not going to make much out of this. And it's just not going to be a good fit. So I just, my fears is that someone like that's going to get into these programs. They're going to be like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this, man? And I'll be like, sir, if you don't have the time to put in this, you're probably not going to get too far. Anyways, as with anything, nothing's a fucking magic pill, especially with the indicators as well. Look, if you're going to get into one of the indicators, I love these fucking indicators, man. That's why we offer them up here. Problem is, if you don't already have, a working plan, a working strategy that you backtest yourself where these indicators fit into, they're not going to be like a magic pill to just turn on the fucking profit machine after that, obviously, right? So I just, want to make sure on that as well. Anyways, actually, I wish I went to the funny rates here a little bit earlier, because this actually is kind of more interesting in the short term with negative rates. Again, it's a little bit more short term sideways, but if Bitcoin Bulaws are going to pick it up here, we do expect, I would not expect another stint back down much below $40,000 on a closing basis. That's going to happen, especially with funny rates actually on the Bula sides right there too, with shorts essentially paying for positions that have been mostly underwater in the last few days here. All right, cool. I think that's going to do it for me. I want to wish you well yet again. We'll be back on Monday with some more live stream analysis. Certainly over the weekend, there'll be more video analysis like this as well. Take care, and until next time.